That, observes French psychiatrist Martiane Boulvis, is the heart of jealousy. For Boulvis, who has spent years in the trenches with patients, jealousy is not the guardian of love, but more typically its destroyer. It arises in relationships whenever we feel erased by a partner's lack of attention. She insists it is a signal, not to blame the partner for attention to someone else, which is what we usually do, but to look inside oneself. There, she contends, we will find the source of insecurity that instantly makes the rival seem so superior to us. What's at stake in jealousy, she argues, is nothing less than survival of the sense of self. Just what are we doubting? We assume that jealousy is a necessary evil, the collateral damage of love, says Boulvis, author of Jealousy, True Stories of Love's Favorite Decoy. Jealousy lives upon doubts, said the 18th-century moralist François de la Rochefoucauld. But what exactly are we doubting? All human emotions exist to help us figure out who we are in the world, and jealousy is no exception. It is a resource we call on when we feel at risk, when our sense of self is put in jeopardy. When we are jealous, we are in fact in the grip of an identity crisis. Invariably, however, we misdirect our attention. Boulvis explains, the target of jealousy, the one who has provoked our jealousy, shatters our self-regard. From the rival emanates an aura of magical attributes that he or she possesses and we don't. Yet we are the ones who assign those attributes to the rival. What they really represent is something unrealized in ourselves. It signals our wish to be better than ourselves, to reconfigure who we are. Boulvis cites the case of a patient who had not dared to pursue the career of her dreams, becoming a doctor. But her boyfriend left her for a woman more accomplished than she. She came to realize that her jealousy of her rival masked her craving for the part of herself she had ignored. She lost the boyfriend, but she went back to school. It's a mistake to assume that jealousy always involves love, argues Aaron Ben Zeef, a philosopher who heads Israel's University of Haifa. A man who despises his wife may nevertheless become jealous when someone else looks covetously at her. Here the central feature is losing to a rival. In this case, he insists, jealousy is more germane to the personal characteristic of selfishness than to love. People indeed use jealousy as a signal, to try to control their partner. But that only makes the relationship worse. They substitute power for value, says Stosny. They feel a loss of personal value, and rather than do something that will make them feel more valuable, they do something that will make them feel more powerful. But the more that people try to soothe their own emotions by controlling a partner, the more powerless they are destined to feel, because, observes Stosny, you're dependent on your partner's whims to feel okay, and that's a setup for anger. Our brains don't tolerate jealousy, releasing just enough to penetrate our self-awareness. Jealousy lands with brutal force, lending itself far too readily to obsession and delusion. It makes you think the same thing over and over, says Stosny, and the more you do that, the less reality testing you do. Emotions all have an illusion of certainty, and jealousy makes you certain of your perception of the world. Buzz contends that the tendency to deception that is a hallmark of jealousy is built into the brain. We have evolved cognitive biases designed to overestimate the likelihood of costly things happening. So we make all kinds of errors in judgment, erroneous inferences, erroneous suspicions. But our brains are designed that way to avoid the more costly error of being exposed to a mate poacher.